which 88 you want it to be. It tells me it's CD Lamb, but it could be any of them.
Well, the name on the jersey says Lamb.
All right.
We'll go CD Lamb.
It has been an amazing weekend at the Olympics. There's no question about it. And it did not disappoint. 8 a.m. start, which I saw somebody complaining about having to get up early on the West Coast to watch, as if they were thinking that the actual Olympians were getting up early to play the game at 8 a.m. I guess they don't understand it's a different time in Italy. I felt really bad for that person. Like, how do you like legitimately angry? How do you schedule these guys having to get up at 5 a.m. to get ready for an 8 a.m. game? Lord help us. The education system failed somebody.
Oh, man.
No, just you, boss. Just you. Although you got to applaud. I saw somebody saying in Vancouver, they had a watch party there. It said it's a weird collection of people who are still out at 2 a.m. partying and then are coming into the bars to watch the hockey at 2 a.m. as well. So salute of the crossover effort there. I don't know if the bar goers themselves at 2 a.m. were willing to stay out until 5 a.m. to watch. Maybe they were. Maybe they're making it an all-nighter. It was an incredible finish, though. 2-1 in overtime. How did we get there? Chris Vasquez with the sound.
And it's Werenski. Now Jack Hughes hooks it around the car. United States with numbers. Rocket toss it comes. Jack Hughes wins it. The golden goal for the United States. For the first time since the 1980 miracle, the United States takes the gold. Jack Hughes beating Jordan Bennington.
I let out a pretty good yelp when that went into the back of the net. In fact, I couldn't tell at first. It happened so fast. And then the way they skated, I realized, oh, my gosh, it went in. And Kenny Albert's call a moment later is one of those in hockey. Sometimes you can't quite tell because it went obviously 5-hole there in the back of the net. Jack Hughes, the hero. He lost a couple of chicklets earlier in the game on a high-sticking double minor. Almost gave the Americans the opportunity to win it at that point, so he was able to cash home. And he'll remember that crooked smile for the rest of his life. There's no doubt about it. An unbelievable match for Connor Hellebuyck, who saved 41 out of 42 shots, as they say in hockey, kids, standing on his head numerous times. Some miraculous saves that kept the Americans ahead and then in it after, because it was an onslaught by the Canadians as they outshot the Americans 33-18 over the final two periods of the match. It felt like the Americans were just hanging on by a thread, trying to survive with the lead. And then once it was tied, trying to hang on to get to overtime. It felt like when they went on that 4-minute power play, they were going to have the opportunity to win it. But the Americans then committed a penalty themselves. So the Canadians were then given the upper hand with the chance to win it. But the United States able to hold them off. We get to overtime, 3v3. I talked with KV about this on the bridge, Chris. But I said in regards to John Cooper and the Canadians complaining about, hey, we're the better team. 3v3 isn't how we should decide this thing. Frankly, boo friggin' who. It's not a best out of 7. It's not the Stanley Cup Finals. It's a one and done. Do you have it today? You guys almost lost in the semifinal round, so you're probably fortunate to have survived that match to get to this point. And here we are. We got to overtime. Canada, you had plenty of chances to win it in regulation. You didn't. Those are the rules. If it would have gone your way, you wouldn't have been complaining about it. We play on.
That's it right there. That's it right there. If it would have gone their way, he's not complaining. He's not going to say, oh, if this would have been 5-on-5, it would have been better. You're not saying that if you win. Don't be a sore loser. You lost. It is what it is. You had the same opportunity that the Americans had, and you didn't take advantage.
Isn't it one of those stories, though, like bigger picture, that outside of basketball, that might be it. Like, we find something to complain about with every overtime format there is. Soccer, football, hockey. We are complaining about every single one of these formats and the way we decide an outcome after what is a tie. And we're not going to sit on a tie, so we have to decide it one way or another, and we cannot decide the most fair way to do it. Even the NFL, right? And you're obviously a diehard football fan. You can't tell me, even though they changed the rule and now we're playing under a format that allows for both teams to touch it, that it's not a fair format. It still isn't, because now what do you want to do in overtime? You want to kick off.
Yeah.
So you get the ball second, and hey, we get 4 downs every time if we need a field goal or a touchdown to go down the field. It's not fair. It will never be completely equitable, right? And hockey's, look, that's where we sit. Did they do it 3v3 to make it quicker? Yeah, probably. Probably. We saw it in the women's. The women actually went 4 minutes into their overtime before it was decided. We only made it 2 in this one. Yeah, that's part of the reason why. But did each team have a shot to win it? 100%. Is it the most ideal? Maybe not. But those are the rules that they made up. It's not a best out of 7 either. The best team doesn't always win, Canada. If you felt like you were better, great. Great. You really, watching it as, again, a novice hockey watcher, they were better. But last I checked, the gold medals are around the Americans' necks because they outscored Canada 2-1 in overtime. Game, set, match. Like, that's it. I don't know why the sour grapes as much. Like, Sidney Crosby didn't play. Great. I'm sorry. It sucks. I would have liked for him to play. Nobody wants anybody to miss on this grand of a stage. I'm sure the Pacers would have loved Tyrese Halliburton been available in Game 7 last year for the entire game. It's sports, man. You got to go out there with what you got. It's one and done. I'm sort of turned off by the whole, the format got us beat. Yeah, we were the better team.
Box score says otherwise.
Right. The only part that mattered, that 33-18 shot advantage in the last 2 periods, that don't mean diddly poo. The Patriots outgained the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Who cares?
Box score says otherwise.
Scoreboard, man. That's all that matters in this case. Norway won the most medals. Norway, continues to dominate the Winter Games. United States, hey, we got second most medals, 12 gold medals. That's outstanding. Outstanding. Any grand takeaway from the Winter Games for you?
No. Didn't really watch a lot of the Olympics. Just happy the U.S.
Not
won.
hooked on curling? Not going to go out and start a curling league?
I am kind of interested in curling. I'm not going to lie.
I have a theory on that, by the way.
What's
on
about curling or why we get
the
interested?
number of people that are fascinated with curling.
Okay.
It's the only one of these Olympic Games, one that it feels like anyone can do. No one's rolling down a bobsled at 90. There's no spot to do it either. No one's doing some of this skiing activities. My buddy was like, hey, he showed me some guy that actually went down the hill on one of the jumps. He went down backwards and then did a spin and flip or whatever, He's like, how much to do this, knowing that I would kill myself by trying. I said, oh, I'll do it because there's zero chance I would make it to the actual point where I would jump. I would fall down trying to go backwards before I ever got to that point. Yeah. So I'm still getting paid. Then, yeah, I'll do that. Like, we can't do any of these other things. That's my theory, is that curling, everyone looks at it and said, oh, I can do that.
I want to know how you get involved. Like, what are you around growing up as a kid?
In Canada, I think they're just going outside.
But what are you around as a kid that makes you say, you know what? Bobsledding. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. You're right. Like, that's
same with curling. Like, what are you around that makes you say, damn, I could be in
they got frozen ponds up there. I guess they could do that part. No different than like the ice skating and all that you get, right? Like, anyone can go outside and skate.
Do you paint circles on the ice, or you got to know how to keep score?
I don't know.
Okay.
We do shuffleboard down here in Florida. That's the warm weather curling, is shuffleboard.
Should make that an Olympic sport.
We should. I don't know why it's not.
Everyone wants to talk about beer pong being in the Olympics. Make shuffleboard an Olympic sport.
Oh, man. Well, it's done. It's over. Mike Tirico can now sleep for 7 days and 7 nights. He needs the rest. God bless his heart. Showing off his abilities, though. Great guy and unbelievable Olympics for him. Kenny Albert, I thought, nailed
his calls,
the hockey calls.
Gives me goosebumps every time.
Yeah.
Great
Don't
call.
get me wrong. Like Doc Emmerich is arguably the greatest to ever do it, but Sean McDonough does it in NHL as well, is great, and Kenny Albert. It's tough. It's probably the toughest sport to call, I would think.
Yeah.
Just the action's so fast. Get to name and call the action it's got to be the trickiest.
What do you think
Have to
would be
learn.
harder, hockey or baseball? With the downtime in baseball?
Baseball's easy to call, but it's harder to fill.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Baseball, I again, I've actually talked to Mark about this. Obviously, he does football, baseball, and basketball. Baseball is the most challenging in that you have a lot of space to fill and how you're going to fill it to make it as entertaining as possible, especially, if you're doing it by yourself, even more of a challenge. That's why, Vin Scully is up here for me. It's like that guy's the greatest storyteller ever. It can make, paint drawing sound interesting. But yeah, to me, hockey, just as fast as the action is. I mean, basketball can be that way, but not as fast as hockey.
Right.
Not as fast as hockey.
Yeah.
Right. It's, and you're right. I mean, Kenny Albert was awesome in these Olympic Games. So now we turn our attention to many other things. The NBA, down the stretch they come, and an unbelievable weekend of college basketball. But I want to run something past you guys in regards to NFL free agency. We're still a few weeks away from it, but have you stopped to ask yourself, why is it that the Packers quarterback, Malik Willis, is getting so much attention? So I did a little bit of a deep dive, and I'm going to try to explain to you why I think he is the hot name out here in NFL free agency and why a team in Florida, I don't think, will be going after him. They were rumored to. I don't think they're going to. That's coming up. It's the Beat of Sports here on a Monday on FM 96.9 The Game.
It's almost like an unwritten rule that when you become a father, you become king of the bad dad jokes.
What is Forrest Gump's password? One Forrest one.
Are you ready to laugh? We know at least one person is. Here's CB's dad joke of the day.
Oh, that's so great.
All right, let's see if I can kick off the week on a high note for you, Tuck. Why did the man get fired from the orange juice factory?
Why did the man get fired by the OJ factory? Why?
He got fired from the orange juice factory for lack of concentration.
Not bad. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Welcome back to the Beat of Sports. Filling in for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Tuck.
A good Monday to everybody out there listening. 10 o'clock, WYGM Orlando, WJRR, HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, and AM 740. Online and streaming at 969thegame.com, and the video stream at YouTube as well, 96.9 The Game. We're up. You can see CV in his Dallas Cowboys garb here today. No hat, though.
No hat.
No
Fire
hat.
Jerry hat.
He does have hair, in case you were wondering.
Yes.
Does have hair.
Gotten a lot of, CV doesn't look like how I imagined he'd look.
Yeah.
Mark says take it as a compliment. I don't know how to take.
Usually it is. I remember
it's like-
somebody, I still remember to this day, the first person that said this to me. Man, I thought you were going to be a lot fatter.
See, I don't know how to take that.
I'm just, hey, like, great, man. I'm
Like, thanks.
glad I'm not, fat.
Like, I'm scared to actually hear what people thought I looked like.
Yeah. Radio star, man. Radio star. You can move amongst the masses. Nobody knows who you are.
Still do that.
Yeah.
Even
Then
being my
video
YouTube
killed the
star.
radio star, and now we've killed MTV after all these years.
If I could give a shout out to Bo Wiegans real quick, I got to make an employee beer, and fittingly, I named it Brewing Killed the Radio Star. Nice sour IPA.
Nice.
Very
And
good.
how's it taste?
Oh, this was a few years. This is probably 4 years ago.
Okay.
It did really well.
All
It
right.
was fantastic.
Great.
Got the sour to start, the West Coast IPA, the hot bitterness to kind of mellow it out on the back end. Maracuya and strawberry. Oh,
Look at you.
yeah,
I like that.
good stuff.
Mark will join us coming up in about 15, 20 minutes or so. UCF Knights on the road. They knocked off Utah on Saturday night, 73-71. Big win for UCF, and further trying to solidify their NCAA tournament standing. They'll take on BYU and AJ DeBonsa, who could be the first overall selection, tomorrow night at 11
You mean it?
p.m.
You mean it makes sense for these high-paid college athletes to actually play every single basketball game?
Yes.
Huh.
Ideally, if you're
That's
you're
odd.
healthy, you should be out there and playing,
That's odd.
not
Just
tapping out of games.
watching Darren Peterson, I thought you just sit out whenever you want. Huh.
That's not the most ideal. No,
Huh.
no, you don't want that.
Huh,
I
huh.
look, you could tell Bill Self was losing his patience over it too. You definitely could tell that. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on.
Fascinating.
So you might be wondering, you might not be wondering, why is it that a backup quarterback who washed out as a third-round pick in Tennessee and Malik Willis is not just garnering attention, but there's scuttlebutt and discussion amongst NFL insiders looking at the Rappaports and Breers and those ilk that are suggesting he can make upwards of even $30 million a year on a new contract to quarterback your football team this fall. So here's what the reality has become for Malik Willis. In the last couple of seasons, since leaving the Tennessee Titans, where it just didn't work. Remember, if you can remember back, and you follow the NFL draft closely enough, heading into that draft, there was some discussion, hey, is he going to be picked somewhere in the middle rounds? Not that he certainly wasn't Shedeur Sanders as far as fame, but there was discussion, hey, can he make it to the middle of the first round? Like, is that what we're looking at with this guy? First round came and went, second round came and went, and then in the third round, Tennessee selected Malik Willis. Didn't work. So why is it now that he's being discussed in this way? Well, if you watched last year, you know he played pretty well when Green Bay called on him when Jordan Love was hurt. So the last 2 seasons, he has 4 starts, just 4 starts, and 2 other relief appearances. In 2024, he was 40 out of 54, 3 touchdowns. He rushed for 138 yards. He had 550 yards passing. In 2025, last year, he was 30 out of 35 passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, had 123 yards on the ground and 422 through the air. So without question, showed himself as a dual threat quarterback Also showed the ability to push the ball down the field, had several nice long passes, a couple against the Chicago Bears in a start where he had a couple of long touchdown passes in that one. So in the 2 years since becoming a quarterback in Green Bay that filled in, 70 out of 89. I'll do the math for you in that. That's 79%. That's pretty damn good, 79%. That's not a quarterback who has an issue with accuracy, and it's not just a bunch of dump-offs. He is pushing the ball down the field. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, 261 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns, 972 through the air. Doesn't throw for a whole lot of yards necessarily. Compensates that with the running. It was also sort of fascinating. If you look back, it wasn't until like one of the relief appearances in 24 that the Packers even punted with him at quarterback. Now, they went for it a few times, and they had and they had some turnovers, like he even had a fumble. But it's sort of funny, like they didn't punt last year with him playing quarterback. So if you're wondering why, I think that is part of the reason why. It is that he has been very productive as a quarterback and successful in helping Green Bay win football games. The other thing is, as far as a build is concerned, he is basically identical to Jalen Hurts, 6'1", 225. They're probably a bag of chips away from like being the same exact weight. That might be the only difference there, right? It's negligible as far as the size.
Well, Jalen Hurts has pretty big quads
is concerned. Well, and Malik Willis isn't a small guy, right? He's shorter, like Hurts, 6'1". He's not tall, but he certainly has a build that could survive the rigors of the NFL. And with the running ability, I think that plays in it as well. And here's the other reality, all right? So this is the other part I think that plays into this. Free agent quarterbacks under the age of 30 that you would be willing to invest in. I'm going to say this again. Free agent quarterbacks under the age of 30 that you would be willing to invest in. Daniel Jones, coming off an Achilles tear. Cody Pickett, we already mentioned, right? That didn't work out in Pittsburgh. Trey Lance, Sam Howell, and Zach Wilson. That's basically the list of free agent quarterbacks under the age of 30. I think we would both agree, CV, the only guy on that list that's getting a contract worth anything would be Daniel Jones. And that might even come with Indianapolis, like, I guess we have to because he played really well last year before he went down with the injury.
Not to deviate from where you're going here, but just a quick point. If you're Indy, would you not want to franchise tag Daniel Jones?
They might. They have the ability to make that decision now. There's some cap ramifications that come with that, though. It actually, if you follow, the cap at all, I guess, would probably benefit them to sign him to a longer deal. You'd reduce his number this year, would fit into the equation a little bit better, as opposed to just dumping whatever the franchise number is, which has got to be over $40 million at this point. I have to look up what the franchise number is. But, it's top 5 at the position. It might be closer to 50 at this point for a franchise tag quarterback. So the options under 30 right now are extremely limited. You could argue there's better options over 30, which would include Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco. So we don't have a whole lot of options of younger quarterbacks. The teams with a need, though, pretty high. Vegas, who has the first pick, obviously has a need. I count 6 that definitely have needs. The Jets, you would assume the Cardinals would address it, right? But Kyler's not a free agent yet. It may not be. Cleveland, who's relied on 2 rookies for much of last year. Miami, and Tua is not a free agent yet, so it doesn't fit into this equation.
By the way, the franchise tag is $46 million.
$46 million. All right, there you go. In Pittsburgh, who obviously, I don't know if they want Rodgers back, what they might do. So there's certainly teams with need and not enough quarterbacks to fill that need, right? So of the guys that are available, really only one you would sign up to be your quarterback in Daniel Jones, and even that comes with some degree of risk.
Right.
There's just not options that are out there. And there's more teams that need something, so it's going to add up to Malik Willis getting paid. I'm going to give you the numbers. You tell me where Malik Willis you think will fit. Baker got 3 for $100. You got Daniel Jones got 1 for 14 last year. Justin Fields got 2 for 40 from the Jets last year. And Geno Smith got 3 for 75 when he signed with Seattle before his 2-year deal last year with the Raiders.
He's not getting $100 million.
No, I don't think. Although, Baker came with the idea that he was a successful quarterback in Cleveland before being phased out, then had to go the long way for a 1-year deal with Tampa, mind you, and then he got the 3-year deal. So
all the
you're
guys,
right. You're right, I think, in assuming that's just too far-fetched.
All the guys that you mentioned have had some level of success in the NFL where Malik Willis really hasn't played a full season in the NFL.
He hasn't played a half a season.
So you're really you're not gonna want to give too much money to a guy like that because you don't know if he can withstand a full NFL season. Yes, the accuracy the last couple of years has been on point. He's been great. But how many of these teams that you mentioned, how many of them are looking ahead to the 2027 draft class? How many of them want to use a first-round pick to get the 5 years of control on a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal?
All right. Good observation. So here's what I'd say to that, because I think that's an excellent observation. Vegas, new staff administration, right? Dolphins, new staff administration. And by me saying that, I'm saying they could afford to wait in theory because it's the first-year takeover at those places. But Vegas probably will address it this year with the first pick.
Right.
Arizona, new staff administrator. So, they could wait as well. Cleveland, new staff, front office. So there's a little bit of a newness there. Pittsburgh, new coach, right? The Jets. The Jets seem like the team that, and I'm not saying the others want it, but to your point, the Jets can't afford to wait. The Jets got to put together some W's next year. Otherwise, they're all going to be looking for work. And where you're sitting at the draft, you're not going to find the solution. So your solution is either trading for or waiting on Tua or Kyler, or investing in Malik Willis and selling us on the upside, the untapped upside of what a season long could look like for him.
So then going back to your original question of where does Malik
Willis, by the way, I don't think he fits in Miami. That's the other bridge here, right? I know they brought the Green Bay folks in there. I get it. And I think at one point that might have made some sense, but I think for what they're looking to do and potentially tearing down, and I think you're going to hear a lot of, Jalen Waddle talk over the next few weeks as far as what his future is going to be. And they might, Jordan Brooks, they might visit a lot of their veteran, better players and try to make the entire roster younger. With that said, next year's quarterback draft class is better. And you might just be better. And Sullivan talked about, the GM talked about, hey, we want to draft a quarterback every year. So it might make more sense financially for Miami to just say, hey, Quinn Ewers, we'll draft some guy in the second or third or fourth round. Let those guys work through the season. If we have to address it again next year in the draft because we stink, by the way, the over-under is 4.5. So the expectation is they could be picking atop the board. That probably makes more sense than spending $20 to $30 million on a young quarterback and have him get his brains beat him because the rest of the team isn't any good.
Yeah, not to mention, you just mentioned the potential of a Jalen Waddle trade. So you're going to do that? Yeah, you're going to bring in Malik Willis to throw the hoop.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
So to your Jets theory, say Malik Willis goes to New York
or Pittsburgh, I think is the other one I would throw out there. Just because if Rodgers isn't coming back, Steelers got to get a quarterback somewhere.
I think Aaron Rodgers, I think I've seen this. I'd have to double check, but I think Rodgers was open to the idea of playing again with Mike McCarthy in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just screams 9 wins, 9-8.
I don't know. Tomlin's not there anymore. Maybe it doesn't scream 9 wins.
I don't know. But to play your game again, I think maybe the Jets do make the most sense for Malik Willis. You got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. I know Breece Hall's a free agent, but I think he's going to end up going back to New York if they don't use the franchise tag on him.
They'll probably use a transition tag or franchise tag, one or the other.
So they do have some weapons for him to use. Maybe a 2-year, like a Justin Fields type deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like 2 years, $50 million. front load it. Look, it's a lack of. If you're wondering why Willis is going to get paid, one, he's very good in a small sample size the last 2 seasons. 2, the locker room seems to rally around him. Coaching staff likes him. 3, the quarterback draft this year going to produce a lot of guys in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, but really only one guy that we're pointing to in Mendoza at number 1 overall that you would expect to come in and start right away. And I just mentioned free agents under 30. It's Daniel Jones, and one would think the Colts would be first in line to re-sign him and take their chances on what they saw the first half of last year. The options aren't out there. Malik Willis literally stands maybe at the front of the line for quarterback options this offseason because of all these other reasons. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid.
Yeah, and it's going to be on the whoever signs him to, again, structure the deal to where, yeah, you're probably going to be out some money this year, but if it doesn't work, you can cut him next year and, live with whatever consequences there are.
Right. Well, I mean, look at the Jets. They did that with Fields and had to bench them through the year, and they'll have to deal with the consequences of the fallout of, losing some on the cap this year, or they'll trade him to some other team if they can get that team to buy into the idea of Fields being maybe a backup quarterback for them.
Probably trade him for a late round pick.
Might be able to. I mean, it's not that expensive that a team might take him on as, even a running quarterback option, a backup quarterback option.
And he's only got 1 year left on his deal. So.
Right. So it seems like one way or another, Fields will be playing somewhere else next year. All right, Marc Daniels will join us live from Provo, Utah, one would assume, as the Knights take on BYU tomorrow night. That's next.
Utah, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma. From somewhere else in the country, let's welcome the host of the Beat of Sports as a guest on his own show. Here's Marc Daniels.
Mike Tuck in for Mark here on the Beat of Sports on FM 96.9 The Game this Monday with Chris Vasquez. And as promo guy mentioned, Marc Daniels is on the road in Utah. It's a little chillier here today, Mark, but I imagine you have us beat out there. What's it look like?
Actually, the temperature today is going to go to the mid upper 50s in Salt Lake City, and about the same in Provo, which we're going to head over there in a little bit. But I was telling Chris last couple of days I did a little hiking, the athlete that I am, and you go outside, it's like 40, but with the sun, it feels like 60, 65. So it's been gorgeous. I've barely seen a cloud here last couple of days, but all is good. So I think it's, 30 something right now, but it's nice. It's nice.
What time did you have to wake up to watch the hockey yesterday?
So you go back to Saturday night, UCF wins this kind of wild game against Utah, game they really needed to have, and really banged up with injuries and kind of limping down the stretch. Had a lead, gave away, come back, they win the game. So everybody's feeling pretty good, get back to the hotel, and, want to get a bite to eat. You can't eat too much before you go to bed and everything. And Mike, you jacked up for the game, everything, and I roll over and I look at the clock and it's 5:17 and I got up. I'm like, I'm getting up because the game is going to be at 6:10 timeout here. And I got up. I'm like, you know what? I'm up. I'm up and just made a cup of coffee and locked in. And I didn't miss a second of it. And, the sarcasm in me, how does that taste, Canada? And just put the national anthem on a continuous loop. But, Mike, and it's the patriotism of it. But I do think, and maybe you've talked about this, of our national teams, and I'm not going to try to sell any, but I love hockey. The Rangers are having an awful season, so Team USA is the only thing I got in hockey right now. But our hockey team has a bitter rival that's not the Soviets, but it's a legitimate sports rival among the best in the world. When our U.S. men's basketball team plays, they're the overwhelming favorites. They're supposed to win, even though the gap is closed. I mean, no disrespect to the U.S. women's national soccer team, but they had been the dominant team. And while the world has caught up a little bit, I still think this is different because of the open display of sports hate that these two teams have. And in a couple of days, some of these guys are going to go back to being teammates. And to see the passion of what it meant, where the Americans, and we're not underdogs often, we're an underdog. And this isn't a miracle on ice. Don't get fooled by that. But I thought it was incredibly patriotic. And that third period and the overtime, for me, it was awesome. And I'm not ashamed. I'm fist pumping. I'm happy and get emotional when you see some of the stuff after the game. And has that taste, Canada? And I'm rambling here. I don't want to hear about the 3-on-3. I don't want to hear about it. Too bad. You knew the rules going in. You won a 3-on-3 game to advance. Stop it. Okay, if you don't like it, then push to get it changed in the next Olympics. But stop using that as an excuse. And for crying out loud, the three guys I had on the ice are three of the best players in the world. Okay, their three players are arguably in the top 5 of the best players in the world. And if your guy plays the puck instead of the angle, who knows if Hughes even gets a shot off. So I don't want to hear it. Take the loss, take the L. I don't want to hear we know who the better team is. Yeah, we keep score, okay? It's not figure skating. We keep score. And the U.S. got 2 goals. You got 1. Take the silver and go home.
Amen. So I'm going to present my side of it here, but I want to ask you in regards to John Cooper's statement about the 3v3 and it's not real hockey and we don't figure out the Stanley Cup final this way. Your response to the rule that is obviously unique, that to have 3-on-3 hockey, the women of the Americans beat Canada the same way with that 3v3 in overtime. What is your reaction to that?
First off, John Cooper's a Hall of Fame coach, and he's done so much for the state of Florida in hockey, so nothing will ever change that. And even though I'm a Ranger fan, I love John Cooper because I respect the job that he's done with that franchise. Too bad. Sorry. You knew the rules. Everybody knew the rules when the tournament started. And what? If Canada gets the same goal, are you going to say it's a cheap gold medal? To me, it came across as just the biggest whining group of babies ever. Give me a break. Okay. Hey, John, we got 3-on-3 in the NHL, don't we? Oh, that's right. We do. Okay. This isn't new. Everybody get the same rules when the tournament started. Everybody. Okay. If you don't like it, then be a voice, and a powerful one that says, guys, let's not do this at the next Olympics in 2030. And you know what? If it's such a bad idea and the greatest players in the world are going to put their foot down, you think we're going to have 3-on-3? If the best players in the world threaten, we're not going to play in 2030 if we don't change the rules, then I guess we'll change the rules. But that was the rule in 26. Too bad. I don't want to hear it.
You know what I have to say to that? The idea that like it's not the same standard in the NHL and the Stanley Cup final is we also play a best out of 7. We're not playing best out of 7. This is one and done. It's the difference between the NCAA basketball tournament and the NBA finals. It is a different setup, and we accept that and what it is. And sometimes we don't end up with the quote unquote best team that wins the championship. And the Canadians can cry in their beer all they want about being the better team. Mark, we both have eyes, and we both have enough hockey acumen to say, yeah, Canada probably was the better team on the ice, but the only thing that really matters at the end of the day is the gold medal draped around the Americans' necks because they scored more goals and won the game.
That's it. I mean, again, we keep score for a reason. It's not a judge figure skating that goes, well, I think they were better. Mike, they had a 5-on-3.
Yes.
Arguably the best 5 players you could put out in the world, for crying out loud.
Correct.
I mean, the group that was on the ice, even when they subbed, it's like, how? I mean, it's unbelievable. The Americans held off the 5-on-3. Give me a break. Stop it. Okay, just take the loss. Be a respected silver medalist and drop it. I'm sorry, I understand it's the number one sport in your country. I get it. Part of this is fun as a fan and all sorts of stuff. But listen, the way the Canadian players and more about their fans and media ran their mouth before the Olympics, Mike, they should have. It's the greatest team that Canada put out talent-wise would blow the Soviet Union away in 1980. I mean, they'll never play, but that was the greatest. No, this Canadian team is the greatest collection of talent. It's on them that they didn't win. It's on them that they didn't blow out the Americans 6-1 or 5-1. It's on them, not on the Americans. Yeah, I watched the game yesterday. Who was the better team? As far as the aggressive, as far as more shots, it was Canada, but they didn't win. They didn't get the goals to win. And you made the mistake by leaving the Americans around. And when we got to 3-on-3, you still had 3 of the best players in the world on the ice when he gave up a goal. Stop it.
We probably should have waited another 2 weeks, let Sidney Crosby get healthy, and then play a best out of 7. And then we'll decide who the best team is.
Give me a break. Hey, suck it up, Buttercup. Give me a break.
That surprised me, though, he didn't play.
How does that taste? I guess he has to be seriously hurting there, or Cooper had the conversation by saying, listen, let us go win the gold for you. You've done too much for this country. So, listen, I think the Canadians the night before went to bed thinking this is just going to be a celebration of Canadian hockey and we will handle the Americans easily. And, listen, Sidney Crosby's going to go down as one of the great players ever, but there's no day that will go by that he's going to wonder about not playing in the gold medal game. And that's not saying he went down. I don't know the extent of his injury, but it's going to eat at him that he didn't play in that game. And, I'm sorry. I will soak up every bit of patriotism. I don't care about anybody's damn politics today or anything. Jack Hughes, born in Orlando, Florida, for crying out loud, scored the winning goal. The guy's got no teeth, basically, bleeding and all sorts of stuff, draped in an American flag, the emotion of the team picture. And we got enough crap in this country every single day that we are all responsible for. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to be patriotic. And I loved every second of it yesterday, every celebration moment of it, every video of it. And I don't want it to stop because we need moments like that. And being serious a moment, it's a reminder about what sports can be for us. It's a reminder about when we rally around for this country, even for 3 hours of a hockey game. It's a beautiful damn thing.
It is. No, it is absolutely amazing that we can in even something like hockey where not all of us are on board 100% of the year. Some of us don't have any idea who these guys play for in the NHL. Okay. Yeah, right. It is totally fine. And I thought your point you made about it being the rivalry that it is with Canada, is the cherry on top here. If it would have been that they were playing Sweden, it would have been that they were playing Sweden. But the fact that, right, it still would have meant something to win the gold medal, but it means even more because there is no replication of that right now in basketball. There wouldn't be in soccer, as amazing as it would be for, even on the men's side. They don't have a true rival in the sport because they haven't earned that with anybody. Maybe Mexico, but that would be weird, I guess, to play Mexico for the gold medal in soccer. But just in
but the rest of the world wouldn't recognize that either.
Correct. Yeah, it wouldn't be built up
yesterday.
Right.
Right. Those are the two top countries in the world that play hockey, including one that it's their, it's the country sport. And like I said, I mean, no disrespect to the national teams. It's just the U.S.-Canada hockey rivalry. It's just kind of on a different level. The Four Nations event was a huge factor in it. And if you don't follow hockey, that's okay. I'm just telling you, that's the greatest collection of talent ever on a team that Canada had. And they still lost to the Americans. And I think, like, to add to your point, if the U.S. had won 4-1, it wouldn't be as dramatic and special. We'd celebrate the gold medal, but to have it go the way that it did was just absolutely insane. It was just insane. The
Magic got an interesting split over the weekend in losing a heartbreaker against Phoenix, but then winning and holding off the Clippers last night. It is sort of the definition of a make or miss league, right? In that you lose on a terrible looking shot by Jalen Green at the buzzer, and then a wide open shot for Ben Mathurin last night that falls off the rim. So they get the split. And I said earlier, Mark, it really is underlining why you went out and got Desmond Bane. You're hoping that he can be a bigger part of a collection, but when you're down Jalen Suggs and you're down Franz Wagner, that Desmond Bane is able to have the game he does last night and do so much for the team to help them win a game like last night.
Look, they could be 3-0 in this trip, but maybe it's right that it's 2-1 based on how these last two games have gone. Bane's been the most consistent player. He hasn't missed a game. And yeah, that's why you made the deal, despite all those picks to get him. Mike, I gotta be better at this. I gotta take my phone and put it down. I do not. I get it. This team was projected to have a better season. I get it. But there's a faction of fans that want the team to lose so that Jamal Mosley gets fired, and there's a faction within that group that wants Paolo traded because they don't like. They're never happy. Like, they're just miserable. And I get it. An up and down season has done it, but I can't recall such a fan base than, all the basketball savants or wannabe basketball savants and go, here, look at Powell, and they find one metric to point out that he's down, and then someone goes, well, here's how he's top 5 in this, and here's why that. It's unbelievable. But I guess when the teams have a year that they're having, that you just get this divide among the Magic fan base. And I'll admit it too, man. When I saw that Suggs is out, I had the same reaction most people. Are you kidding me? We're just back at the All-Star break, and he's out after one bleeping game. And I'm telling you, I agree with the groups like, what the hell goes on in that building over there? Why? How does this happen where all of a sudden guys that you're like, well, now he's out. Like, what do you mean he's out? He just played. Yeah, he's out. I don't get it either. I don't. This is one of the oddest Magic seasons ever because of all the reasons of the injuries, of the onslaught of, I guess, Paolo's mom and fans fighting on Twitter with players. Apparently, what the hell's going on? But I guess that's what happens when your team is underperforming and missing so many guys.
And it really underlines the old saying, expectations are the enemy of happiness. And that this team, for the first time in a long time, really had higher expectations going into the season. And here they are, having one of their better seasons in recent memory, and nobody can be happy because it's not quite what we expected it to be.
No, I was just I was scrolling yesterday. We went out to eat as a team last night, scrolling, and it's like there's a group, and every fan base has it. It's like Florida Gator fans in football didn't want the team to win because had they won, Billy Napier would have stayed. And it's like there's a group of Magic fans and the same thing, like, oh crap, they won. Like, now they're not going to fire Mosley. And like, how do you live on that every day as a fan and be miserable? And I get it. We're miserable as fans because a year that we think is going to be doesn't turn out that way. So then, everyone is just miserable. Look at the East right now. And I choose life to be more glass half full. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you the Magic are about to make a run deep into the playoffs. I'm just saying that there's enough junk happening in the East that if they ever got themselves on track, it's not impossible to get yourself out of the play. And hell, the Heat now think that you get out of the play-in So there's basketball left. You wish the team was more consistent. They're going to frustrate you in certain games, but this is just where they're at. And yesterday, a guy like Bain shows you why he was so important, because he had a phenomenal basketball game, and thank goodness he's played every game. And let's hope nothing happens to him. As far as the injuries, I have no idea. That part I'm with everybody. I just don't understand sometimes.
I'll leave you with this. For the UCF Knights in the Big 12, obviously every night feels like it's a gauntlet. But on top of it, kind of the fun thing if you're a fan, and certainly if you're you sitting courtside, Mark, is you've had an opportunity to watch 3-4 of maybe the 5 or 6 guys that are going to be selected in the upcoming NBA draft. And AJ DeBonce is up next for the Knights. Pretty cool for you to get to witness some of these incredible freshmen that are littered on the Big 12 rosters.
Well, I had the full Darren Peterson experience when he played the half.
Right, that's true. He played a great half and then sat.
Right. Kingston Fleming at Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, if you're going to go to the UCF Baylor game next week, you got to project your first round pick. And AJ DeBonce goes for 20. Yeah, Koa Pete at Arizona, who's got 2 freshmen actually that they're going to be in the top 20.
That's true.
But DeBonce tomorrow comes off a 29, 10, and 9 game against Iowa State. Mike, I'll tell you the fun thing, okay? UCF has basically been playing play-in or playoff games now for the last couple of weeks, because when you're in the bubble and it's a clouded bubble, you can feel it every game. And now with 4 games left, and I don't know if the players feel it, but like Saturday's game against Utah, Utah came off a road win against West Virginia, came home, decent home crowd, and they're playing well, fired up. And every possession all of a sudden matters in the final few minutes. And now UCF's got 4 games left, and maybe they're on the right side of the bubble today. They could be on the wrong side of the bubble. It'll be very interesting. They're banged up. Riley Kugel did not play in the game on Saturday. Don't know if he's going to play on Tuesday. They got a couple of other guys that got actually 3 other players that have ankle injuries as well. Bemis Holtz, their point guard's been dinged up. And it's an interesting approach, Mike. You got 2 big home games coming up. Baylor, Oklahoma State, winnable, not easy, winnable. Play a game at West Virginia. How do you handle your health? You got a game tomorrow night. I'm not saying you just give the game away. But you got a game tomorrow night against BYU. It's going to be tough to win. By the way, leads the nation attendance this year. BYU does more than 18,000 a game. You got to go there, and then do you hope that you're healthy when you go home? So all I'm saying is, if tomorrow's game kind of gets away from you, do you just save some minutes on some guys because you got to come home, play 2 games, then go on the road? I still think the magic number for UCF is 10 conference wins. They got 8 right now with 4 games to go. I think a 10-8 Big 12 team is not going to get left out. But it's fun for me. It should be fun for a fan, because every game is like a play-in game for you. And isn't that what you prefer to have a slot guaranteed, but it sure makes for dramatic nights every time you go out there and play.
No doubt about it. And they are catching BYU. It didn't matter against Iowa State, but shorthanded Richie Saunders, who is a sharpshooting guard, was lost for the season for them. So a late night start.
Top 10, I'm telling you, top 10. And for me, it's a top 5 basketball environment. 18,000 people every home game, and an insane game day presentation of BYU. You wouldn't think of it, but I'm telling you, it's one of the best basketball environments in the country.
11 o'clock start, so buckle up if you're back here in Orlando.
Yeah.
Enjoy the call tomorrow night, Mark, and we'll talk to you soon. Marc Daniels on the road as still in Salt Lake City. Interesting. They haven't left Salt Lake yet.
Yep, he leaves in about 20 minutes for Provo.
On to Provo. Don't know how long of a trip that is, but maybe he'll let you know tomorrow. I'd have to look at a map. I have no idea. I've never been to Utah. You been to Utah?
No, I haven't actually.
All right. Well, we got that in common. Can't say anything else there. Oh, man. You brought up Darren Peterson. Let's discuss AJ and Darren and the rest next here on the Beat of Sports.
Ready for more sports talk? Of course you are. In for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Talk.
So over the weekend, we got treated to an incredible display of basketball on Saturday. As for just the fifth time ever, all four of the top four ranked teams were playing each other. Michigan and Duke in a Final Four-like atmosphere in Washington, D.C. Saw the Blue Devils win and ascend to the top of the polls and to the top as far as the committee's early release of what the seedings would look like. Michigan was the number one earlier on Saturday. Duke was the number two, and now Duke will be the number one, jumping ahead with a 68-63 against the Wolverines. I'll tell you, they are reflections of each other in so many ways. In watching that game, they are the two. I think Duke's actually the third longest team in America. Michigan's the longest. I don't remember who number two is, but man, they're not as good as these two teams. That's why they're so good defensively. Both of them, they're number one and number two defensively in the efficiency ratings and in everything else. They just get their hands in the way of everything. They protect the paint so well. Really an excellent game, back and forth. The final score doesn't necessarily even do it justice. Duke hit a couple of shots and some free throws late to make it a 5-point margin, but most of the game was played within one possession, one way or the other. But that was an impressive win by the Blue Devils. Cam Boozer got into some foul trouble, was able to come out of that foul trouble and come up with some big shots late for Duke to pull away. Both teams sort of struggled in the same way as well, which I guess if you're going to have pause, it might be, hey, what do the 3-point shots look like for each? Because they each struggled from beyond the arc. And then the other part were foul shots. I mean, both teams left a lot to be desired at the foul line. And when you're in close games in March and you're matched up against the better teams, you don't want to be missing front ends and ones. You don't want to be leaving points on the table at the foul line. And so they each did a little bit of that against each other. If either had made more shots, if Michigan had made a couple of more threes, they probably end up winning. And if Duke had made, they probably win more comfortably. But that's what it's going to come down to in a potential rematch down the road. And the other top four matchup, it was Houston at home losing for just the second time since they joined the Big 12, which just speaks to how good of a program Kelvin Sampson had that they jump into the Big 12 and they don't even miss a beat. They immediately jump to the top of the standings of that conference. They lose at home to Arizona without Koa Pete. The freshman was absent from the game. The other freshman that Mark had mentioned, Burries, who some people liken to a Devin Booker. I don't quite see. I kind of see that in the way he plays, but he's not quite as good as Booker was even as a freshman. Didn't play that much at Kentucky, but shoots it nearly as well. He was sick with the flu, and he didn't even score, I don't think, until late in the second half. Then he was able to knock down some shots and some free throws late. But Arizona with a huge road win to put themselves back in position atop the Big 12 standings. Iowa State, who BYU beat the other night, and Marc Daniels talk about playing BYU. So Iowa State was the other number one seed because they had beaten Houston earlier in the week. They go down. So quite a bit of topsy-turvy atop the polls over the weekend. And then Darren Peterson actually plays a full game and then does not play well. Kansas does not play well, and they drop a home game to Cincinnati in a bit of a surprise. We're not going to have enough time here to do the Peterson and AJ DeBonsa discussion justice because we got to get to the top of the hour of the news, so we'll save that for the backside of it. But you can sense the growing frustration from Self and from Kansas with Peterson. We knew last week we'd be talking about it more this week, and it will be a topic of conversation as we get into March, into the madness and But, the Big 12 has a lot of guys that are competing for one of the top spots in the upcoming NBA draft, and those are two of them. And if you're a UCF Knight fan, you can check out DeBonsa, who to this point is playing just as well and seems to have a little less baggage. I think we can say that is the case. We'll talk about that a little bit more. A lot going on in the world of sports. We'll get you caught up with the latest on the news next year on FM 96.9 The Game.
Let's really do the news.
Yes. Now it is time to do the news.
But now it's time for the news.
11 o'clock, WYGM Orlando, WJRR HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, AM 740, Orlando sports leader Mike Tuckin for Marc Daniels, along with Chris Vasquez. Let's get to the news. The Winter Olympics wrapped up over the weekend, and it wrapped up in style, if you fancy the red, white, and blue. The Americans, 2-1 winners in overtime on the ice in the gold medal game.
And it's Wierenski. Now Jack Hughes puts it around the top. United States with numbers. Back across it comes. Jack Hughes wins it. The golden goal for the United States. For the first time since the 1980 miracle, the United States takes the goal. Jack Hughes beating Jordan Bennington.
Hero for the Americans. He with less teeth than he went into the game with, as he took a high stick for a 4-minute double minor in the third period that nearly swung the game in favor of the Americans. He was able to tough it out, get back on the ice 3v3, and cashed in the 5-hole. Connor Hellebuck was unbelievable in the net, 41 saves and 42 tries for the Americans. Matt Boldy, he shouldn't go without mention either. He scored the first goal for the Americans in an incredible play, splitting two Canadian defenders, going down ice, and then punching it in the back of the net. Live audio. No, it was just an amazing finish for the United States on the ice, winning their first gold medal since the 1980 Miracle on Ice, 46 years, and against none other than the rival hated Canadians to top it off. We've talked about it a lot this morning, but an incredible finish for the United States. They finished with 33 medals overall, second only to Norway's 41, 12 golds, 12 silvers, and 9 bronzes for Team USA. Also from the news over in Cortina is that of Lindsey Vonn. I don't know if you saw this. This broke in the last 5 minutes. Lindsey Vonn, in an Instagram post this morning, says that her injuries were far more complicated than just the tibia fracture that required multiple surgeries, and at least from what I read a week ago, was going to require another one when she got back here to the States, that she actually was dealing with compartment syndrome in her leg. For those of you that are not doctors, I will do my best to play one on the radio now. It involves excessive pressure building up inside a muscle from bleeding or swelling. The high pressure restricts blood flow that can lead to permanent injury if not treated quickly, also known as she could have lost her leg.
Jesus.
If not treated quickly. And you want to hear a sense of irony for those of us, I guess, that were questioning whether or not she should have been attempting to go down the side of a hill in skis with a torn ACL, right? And by the way, we could still, I guess, fairly question that. Dr. Tom Hackett, the doctor who saved her leg, would not have been there if not the fact she had torn her ACL over there. So Lindsey Vonn suggests, I may not have a right leg if not for tearing my left ACL in the previous weeks, that the doctor would not have been there to potentially save my leg. Wow. Scary story, obviously. Have you seen the x-ray? I don't know if we talked about this last week. Did you see the x-ray of that leg? Oh man. I mean, it's just a piece here, a piece there, just bones floating inside of a leg, basically.
I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, it was gross. I mean, you can see it when you see her crash.
Yeah.
And you can tell the leg was beat up pretty badly. So lucky to have a limb today. I mean, good news, obviously, for Lindsey Vonn. But probably a long road ahead for her in recovery. There's no question about it. NFL Combine gets underway today. Chris Vasquez eagerly awaiting the athletes getting into action. They will be running around in tight spandex starting on Thursday. The interviews sessions begin tomorrow. So you'll have plenty of audio.
Rocketing up the draft boards or falling out of the first round because they ran a slow 40, a slow shuttle run, 3-cone drill,
Look, we feed
4
it.
Wonder League tests.
We feed into that beast, which I don't know what to tell you, except for like I enjoy it enough that I'm not complaining about it.
I
But,
don't complain. I'm upfront. I don't watch.
but when we say no, not that. I'm spinning off into something else here. Obviously, we are embarking on mock draft season, right? From the minute the Super Bowl ended, we're in full-fledged mock draft season. Maybe since the college season ended, we're in mock draft season. So when we say things like rocketing up the board or falling on the board, it's an imaginary board that we create. And by we, I mean many people who do mock drafts create that we're sort of looking at each other. We're sort of, depending on the depth of the person who's doing it, they might be talking to certain individuals, but we're feeding into the beast that is really just an imaginary idea of falling and rising when there's nothing established and every team has their own board and nobody's actually falling or rising during this process at all. It's just that we move them up and down in mock drafts, and so we call it falling and rising.
I don't know. We're going to see loads of draft prospects. Oh, we didn't hear that name before. Now we're hearing about him because he ran a fast 40 time. He put up 30 reps on the bench press. What are we doing? What are we doing?
It does matter, man. I know how much disdain you have for it. These things do matter. They may not matter the most.
We have film,
but they
not guys in spandex.
And on film, you can't get to know who a person is. It is important that you interview these guys and get a sense of their intelligence. And one of my favorite lines ever is Jimmy Johnson, the obviously Hall of Fame football coach for the Hurricanes and the Cowboys and then later the Dolphins, saying you can't draft dumb football players. Can't do it. Can't do it. You do it once and you realize you can't do it. So it is important to understand who it is that you are picking. No matter how talented they look, if they don't know 1 + 1 = 2, you're going to have a tough time coaching. So this phase does matter, right? And then the next phase of pro days matters as well, and getting to interview them and getting to talk to them. And yes, getting a sense of how they operate as individuals, because football is a team collective, right?
Yeah.
You are so dependent on what others around you are doing. You know, a quarterback is only as good as everyone around him is functioning, right? And that is probably the hardest position to figure out. But even some of the others, I think offensive line and defensive line in particular, all right, like how do they look by themselves? Like, and I mean, like with the athletic testing and such, into as far as where they fit in the grander scheme of things. I'll just give you one observation that I've already made. David Bailey, the defensive end edge rusher from Texas Tech. He potentially could go second overall. I mean, I don't know. He's rising up boards, right?
There it is.
But he's in the mix, right, to go somewhere near the top of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's sort of an interesting observation that a lot of his production was against the weaker competition that Texas Tech played this year. As good as their season was, and they were awesome, obviously got to the college football playoff and had a bye to get there. A lot of that production came against lesser competition, right? And so there is something to be weighed there when you're not drafting the production. You're drafting the player and how that production is acquired. That's what this week is in large part about, is trying to figure out exactly what they have in him versus what they have in a Ruben Bain out of Miami, who may not athletically be the same player that Bailey is. But
to your point,
what does that look
this
like?
is kind of going against everything that, I don't like about the combine, but
okay, good. I'm glad you're swinging over to my side.
No, you don't. But you remember it was 2019.
Uh-huh.
You remember the 3 defensive linemen that were coming out of Clemson that were so Clemson just dominated. Their defense was great.
Right,
it was
right.
Dexter Lawrence, Clelin Ferrell,
Yeah.
and Christian Wilkins.
Right.
All 3 of them together, they were phenomenal.
Right.
But Clelin Ferrell went to Oakland.
Yeah, total bust.
Christian Wilkins to your Dolphins.
Right. Was awesome.
And then
He was awesome as a Miami Dolphin. What's happened since he got to the Raiders is what's happened there, but he was awesome for his 5 years in Miami.
Dexter Lawrence.
Right.
So, I mean,
Who's bounced around, but he's been, obviously good now.
So a lot of these guys, their production is based on where they played and who they played with. To your point, a lot of these guys do go top overall, and they're playing with lesser talent than they did in college.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I get why we'd have the combine, but at the same time, I think too much stock is put into it.
Right. And I would just say the stock we put into it, a lot of it is just framed with the idea of the NFL Network has nothing better to do. ESPN really struggles to talk about anything other than the NFL at times. And so we're going to spend a lot more time with it than probably it deserves. I would agree with you wholeheartedly, but we're so infatuated with it, we will spend more time than is necessary with it, and we will overrate certain aspects of it. So we are on the same page there, but I do think it definitely serves as a value for the teams that are involved with it. The Magic, they were winners last night after being losers earlier in the weekend. They lost on a buzzer beater to the Phoenix Suns. They won last night on what was a near buzzer beater against the LA Clippers. The Magic hold on for a 111-109 win. Desmond Bane went for 36 last night. He was outstanding. They'll take on the LA Lakers on the road tomorrow night. That is your news. Darren Peterson did play over the weekend. I've thought about this a little bit. I'm going to frame it this way. And what is happening when Darren Peterson and when he isn't playing versus what happened in 2020 when a number of NFL players did not play for their colleges and why there's a difference there. I'll tell you why coming up next year on the Beat of Sports.
Just because Marc Daniels isn't here doesn't mean there's no beat of sports. Filling in for Mark, here's Mike Talk.
I thought we were past it, but obviously we're not. The words of Bill Self discussing his star freshman guard Darren Peterson. Mike Tuck with Chris Vasquez here on the Beat of Sports. It is undeniable that Darren Peterson is extremely talented. Many scouts project him as the first overall pick, as do many of the draft nicks that are out there that do the mock drafting at this stage in the game. So there's really no debate. I mean, you can argue if you think someone's going to be better than him in the pros. That's all well and good. But it is certainly the consensus that Peterson would be the guy that they would pick first in a pickup game tomorrow if he's available. Which is the problem. At this point. Is he available? And although Bill Self has been protective of him, he's also said things like, I started with that quote this season. Now, what does it look like? Well, Kansas lost over the weekend, 84-68. Peterson wasn't particularly great, 7 out of 17 from the field for 17 points, 4 boards, 1 assist. The problem really with Peterson is less to do with that stat line and more to do with his availability. But it's not just simply availability. If it was simply availability, we'd be having a different discussion. It's the idea that he's been partially available. Kansas has played 27 games. They are 20-7 this season. Peterson has played in 16 of those games.
Peak NBA form.
He is. He's ready for that's why they like him so much. He's ready for the NBA. He has played in under 25 minutes, which for a star player, I think we would agree is not normal unless you're 2010 or 2015 Kentucky, where you were just so loaded that you could afford to play Karl Anthony Towns 22 minutes a game. In 7 of the 17 games, including, as Marc Daniels pointed out, in the game I watched from my couch, the game against UCF, where he played the first half and then just disappeared. Barely played in the second half. So that part has been frustrating as it has been confusing. He has had some little knick-knack injuries. Okay? That part we can agree to. And from what I read, and there's a great article, as CV pointed up to me today, discussing him a little bit more and some background on him in high school, that work ethic and all that really wasn't a question until now. But why it enters the phrase, the question, is because of that. It's 16 out of 27, and it's 7 games where he's playing but not fully committed to playing. It's sort of an NFL adage, like, if you're out there playing, you're not hurt. You are hurt, but you're playing, and therefore you are accountable for your performance. And you don't want to have to come out of the game. We made a cross comparison. A texter did this morning on the bridge talking about Jack Hughes, right? Now, granted, it's losing, 2 teeth, not, tearing an ACL.
Lindsey Vonn.
Well, again, we can question the sanity of some of this stuff, but, Jack Hughes, it would have been ridiculed for just losing a couple of teeth and not playing in a hockey game. That, I think we can agree there's a difference between that and even a sprained ankle or a sprained toe or anything that is a physical injury that might inhibit you. But we do agree, I think, as sports fans and those that are involved in sports, if you're out there, you're out there, right? And unless on rare occasion injury causes you to leave, like, you're expected to be out there and to finish. And what we've seen in half the games almost that he's played is that he just hasn't been able to do that, right? And then he's barely played more than half the games on top of it. So I said, like, in the NFL comp. Now, this is why I think there is a difference, though. If you think back to 2020, we had a shortened college football season. Heck, the Big Ten only played 6 games that year. It's hard to remember that was a thing. And then we were trying to say, well, is Ohio State playing 6 the same thing as Alabama playing 10? We were trying to, as tricky as schedules are, we were trying to compare those two things. But here's what you may or may not remember. All the guys who didn't play that year to protect their draft value. Looking at you, Cowboy fan. Micah Parsons did not play for Penn State that season. He was projected as a high pick going into that season and decided not to play. You know who else didn't play? Jamar Chase. Didn't play his final year in Baton Rouge. Sat out at LSU. You know who else didn't play? All-Pro, arguably the best offensive lineman in the sport. Penei Sewell. Did not play for Oregon that year. Javon Holland, a Dolphin pick, did not play for Oregon that year. Gregory Rousseau, stud defensive end for the Miami Hurricanes, did not play that season. Rashad Bateman did not play that season. Kenny Gainwell did not play that season. I could go on. There are a lot of guys that fit into this box, including, may he rest in peace, Rondale Moore, who died over the weekend, sadly, at 25 years young. Did not play that season at Purdue. But why we were willing to accept that, CV, is, hey, these guys made a business decision and were willing to rest on what they had already accomplished and shown as players, and they didn't go back and forth. They didn't waffle. They didn't like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They said, you know what? We're good. Like, we're going to walk away from the table and take our chances here. And teams were willing to understand that with the circumstances. If Darren Peterson had suffered an injury and just sat, we would not be in this situation as much as we are, as it feels like he's 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
There is one major difference to comparing guys during the COVID-shortened uncertainty of 2020 and what Darren Peterson's going through now. And that's the fact that, at least legally, Darren Peterson's getting paid a lot of money. To what? To play. These guys weren't getting paid. Again, at least legally, to our knowledge.
I got a feeling Jamar Chase and Micah Parsons were, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
At least legally, to our knowledge.
Not that year, they probably weren't.
But they weren't getting paid. Darren Peterson's getting paid a lot of money. To what? To play. And he's not playing. And when he does play, he's not giving you a maximum effort for the entire game. That's where the biggest criticism comes, is the fact that you want to make all this money, you want to use Kansas to impact your brand and, you know, improve your brand and all this stuff off the court. You still got to play. You still got to play.
You would agree, though. It's not as if it's not necessarily even the 11 games he missed. If you just told me he missed, you know, like 8 straight games because of a hamstring injury and another 3 because of a sprained wrist or something like that, you'd be more inclined to understand that. It's probably more so about the fact that in 7 games, he has not played the extent of where you would expect him to play, that he has tapped out of games, as like literally we could go tapping out of the game during the game.
Didn't he just sit out a game against then number 1 Arizona? Didn't he go through a layup line?
He was sick. He was sick. And even as, well, he was. No, like, we can agree with sick, but this is where you're saying air quotes for those watching on the stream, for CV saying air quotes there. He was sick, but Bill Self's words after that game said it all. We really thought he'd be able to go after going through.
Use the adrenaline.
Right, to power through
it. That just shows he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's making his money. He doesn't want to be there. And you know what? That's all fine and dandy. But if that's the case, don't take the money. And I get that's hard, especially millions of dollars for a college kid. It's hard to say, no, I'm going to take the money. They're giving it to me. But if you don't want to,
I'm inclined to believe, though. You tell me if you think I'm wrong. But in reading a little bit about the kid, I believe him. I'll take him at his word. I don't think this was his plan coming into this year to do this. But I think what happened was an injury propped up, and suddenly you have people whispering in your ear, hey, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Protect yourself, protect your stock, protect yourself as an investment. And that's the battle we've been battling this year. Once he was faced with some adversities, the reality of, hey, I'm being paid anyway.
So he's not mentally tough then?
He is probably a victim of those around him giving him bad advice. I mentioned last week, I thought this was bad advice. I think, and I showed, I talked about last week, like guys have been drafted high that have been hurt, that got hurt. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, who was it? Michael Porter Jr. Guys got hurt and were still drafted because the thought was injury will go away. They'll be better. They're great. We trust that. It's harder to trust this. Your anger and Minnie's anger with him right now is justified in that, hey, this is a harder situation to trust than you just being hurt. Now we're wondering what your commitment level is. And I talked about NFL. It reminds you a little bit of like a Jamarcus Russell situation in that like once athletes, and I don't mean to make him the poster boy, but just giving an example, once some athletes get paid, I made it. Right now, your commitment to excellence isn't quite what it was to get to that stage. And maybe a little bit of that is filtering in Peterson's case. And let's not kid ourselves, probably many other college athletes that are out there that once they finally recognize, wow, I'm getting paid, maybe I don't want to work quite as hard in practice. Maybe I don't want to put myself at risk because I already got the money.
And that's where I think the pay for play is kind of ruining college athletics, not to get off.
Well, it hasn't ruined
is.
professional sports though. Right. And that's the thing is that is going to affect some people.
Yeah.
Like we're not it's no different. God, like in the real world, like people with real jobs, like people get these cushy jobs and like, wow, that guy's getting paid. What's he do? Right.
Yeah.
You probably know somebody listening is going, yeah, it's the way my boss's boss is. It's like, what is that guy getting paid for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they get the money. I don't have to work as hard. I made it.
Darren Peterson's not going to get criticized today for being how he's been this season if he's not making as much as he's making. I get it. You want to protect yourself for the NBA, that's fine. But again, you're getting paid all this money.
I think that's part of it, though. But again, when we're measuring him versus AJ DeBonsa at BYU, or measuring him against Cam Boozer, or measuring him against some of these other kids that are going to be up there near the top of, draft boards, like that. We talked about the combine. That has to be a factor. Is who you are. What's your character? Like, what are you going to do when the chips are down? Are you going to be, and the crazy thing is, like, the Magic played Kawhi Leonard, and I don't remember the last game Kawhi missed. And by the way, Zion Williamson hasn't missed the game in forever either. Like, some of these guys we've questioned in their commitment. Good. Like, maybe they're turning the corner. Maybe they are healthy, and they are willing to be out there and play. But that starts to filter in when you start missing games, and we start, hey, what's the commitment level here out of the athlete? I think that's the bigger picture. I get what you're saying. I think that it does play maybe even to the idea of like, hey, I don't have to push quite as hard because I am getting $5 million from Kansas this year, reportedly.
And again, you're not taking the criticism if you're not getting paid, because the whole goal of college was to make it to the next level. The next level
still is
got you paid.
If he wants to be making $50 million, $60 million annually, he better make sure he snaps out of this.
But how many guys and we see it all the time. They see the money that they can now make in college.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm a millionaire. I'm set for life. I don't need to. What am I going to bust my ass for? We see it all the time. And that, again, goes back to what I just said. Like, I think this whole pay for play is hurting college athletics, and it hasn't yet, but I think eventually it will start to hurt the pros.
Well, I can tell you this much, and this does factor into my thinking, is I would take DeBonsa ahead of him. I would take Darius Acuff ahead of him. I'm not convinced Darius Acuff isn't the best player in the country. I don't care what the draft boards say. I watched that kid play at Arkansas. He can lead my team next season. I'm good with that kid. I mean, there are some guys out there that I think are earning perhaps that. And I said earlier, like, it's easy for a scout to say, oh yeah, no, forget about all. I don't care. Peterson's the best. It's because they're scouting talent. They're not worried about, hey, how do I manage this guy as the general manager? And then how much do I pay him when the contract comes up? And I don't have to worry about him as a coach. Bill Self is having to do that, right? He didn't have to take the $5 million out of his pocket, but he has to figure out how to get the most out of him and still make this Kansas team work. By the way, they're taking on Houston tonight. Should be a hell of a college basketball game. We'll see what Peterson can do against one of the best teams in America. Chris Bassett had some interesting points he made going into the weekend in regards to Major League Baseball's potential lockout at the end of the season and what he thinks should happen. We'll discuss it next year on the Beat of Sports.
Welcome back to the Beat of Sports. Filling in for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Tuck.
Been a busy Monday here on the Beat of Sports on FM 96.9 The Game. Thank you for listening. If you missed any of the show, you can check out the stream at 969thegame.com. Also, should mention again, as we are now doing every day, the live stream on YouTube as well. So check us out there. Chris Vasquez with me says we have a text on the text line you want to address.
Something I want to get to real quick.
Yeah.
Someone texted in, it's up to the university to write the contract so you can move off of players who aren't driven.
Mm-hmm.
But this is basketball culture. He's 18. He grew up in the sit-out era.
Now, I will say, again, respectfully to the era, or what we want to term like a basketball, they've welcomed that perception. It has not been an issue for AJ at BYU. It hasn't been one for Cam at Duke. It hasn't been one for any of the other top freshmen in America that are going out there and playing hard and earning their keep. So,
but it is an issue in the NBA. But
I get it. I'm just making the note. It's one guy we're talking about here. It's not a collection of, oh my gosh, it's become a pandemic of issue here.
I wanted to get to the first point here. It's up to the university to write the contract.
Right.
Who's to say he wouldn't sue? Because that's the world we live in. You want to talk about today's era? We live in I don't want to honor a contract, but I'll sign one. And then if you break it, or if you terminate me, cut off my money, whatever, I'm going to sue you.
Well, it seems like most of the guys are suing now to keep playing college sports.
But Darian Mensah,
Joey Aguilar, by the way, is being forced to turn pro. I don't know if he has a pro career, but the Tennessee Volunteers quarterback lost his battle there.
Or if you're Trinidad Chambliss, keep finding a court until someone sides with you.
Right.
But Darian Mensah, he have a multi-year deal with Duke, who now is voided, and now he can go to Miami?
Mm-hmm.
So what do contracts mean in college athletics? Not a damn thing.
Well, again, that goes back to even the conversation I know Marc Daniels had with one of the interviews last week about, hey, until we make them employees, we're going to run into all kinds of little loopholes with this. They're not employees of the school. You know, it's the name, image, likeness, and let's be real. In a lot of cases, it's not even that. You know, it's not. Yeah, on occasion you get Nike that signs somebody or whoever that sign, and they are actually doing real work and real imaging for a company. But in many of these cases, it's just, all right, we're paying you to come here and to play at your sport. There's no question. I mean, the texture's right, but again, I would say it's not infected the whole sport. Like, in fact, it's really just an isolated incident. We'll see. Someone's going to have to make that hard decision. That much we know. We can have whatever debate we want on it, but someone's going to make the decision to draft Darren Peterson.
Draft him top 3, and he'll play 50 games a season.
He might. I mean, I hope he proves us wrong, frankly. I do hope he proves us wrong. All right, so Chris Bassett, who works for the Major League Baseball Players Association. So take it with that understanding. It's coming from an MLBPA perspective, but his point is a really, really good one. And you will hear, unfortunately, labor conversation throughout the course of the season. So I just want to read this to you real fast here. Chris Bassett on the idea of a salary cap. And I would say, would you tell me I'm wrong? Do you think the majority of sports fans / baseball fans would be in favor of a salary cap?
Baseball fans, yes.
Yeah. I would think the majority feel like a cap would be the right thing to do.
Yes.
Here's Bassett on the salary cap. Salary cap doesn't fix anything. If you look at every major sport that has a salary cap, we, speaking of baseball, have the best parity. The salary cap is not the issue. Having suppressed salaries across the league so owners can make more money is not the answer. Like if I tell you in 25 years the Dodgers will be going to 10 World Series and winning 7 of them, is that an issue? Because that's the Patriots. The Chiefs have been for 6 or 7. The Eagles have been to 4 or 5. The parity in our sport is better than any other sport. We will make changes to try to help the so-called bottom teams out, but a salary cap and suppressed salaries and taking them from players to try to help out the so-called bottom teams to spend more, that's not the answer. Because again, if we're trying to make a competitive league across the board, we have proof that every single league has less parity than ours. So how can you sit there and say that a salary cap is going to fix this when every single salary cap sport has less parity than ours? It makes no sense. And if you do the math, there is, especially at the top, more parity in baseball than there are even in the NFL, which is born on parity. I do think the NFL has, and this year was kind of the weird thing. It was the exception where we got parity at the top, where we got a Final Four. We're going, oh, well, this is different. Where's Philly and Kansas City and Buffalo and Baltimore and all these other teams we've been so used to seeing? He's not wrong, though. Like, I still think a cap is probably a good thing, but the problem with baseball still is that we have the Pittsburghs and the Marlins and the Rays and others that are more than willing to not spend anything. And even the other teams that could competitively spend as much as the Dodgers and the Mets are spending are choosing not to. They're just choosing not to. There's nothing stopping St. Louis or Chicago to spend what the Dodgers spent on Kyle Tucker. What is stopping them? Nothing. They have money. They got a lot of money.
To Chris's point, I do think the salary cap.
And necessarily, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. He's not wrong, too. Like, the idea of, like, parity is, like, we kind of have appreciated and liked as the Chiefs' run of success and the Patriots and the Warriors' run of success and the Lakers. Like, we tend to, like, kind of like that idea. Even people now with the NBA are like, oh, do we kind of like this every year we get a new champion kind of thing we've been in?
Well, to Chris's point about the Chiefs dynasty and the Patriots dynasty, those were done solely because they had the quarterback position. They had one position figured out, and then they kind of piecemealed everything around them. Like, the Patriots didn't have a loaded team like the Dodgers do. The Chiefs weren't stacked at every position like the Dodgers are. So the salary cap kind of limited the amount of superstars that can be on one team for the NFL or the NBA. In baseball, you're not seeing a team like the Yankees in the 90s and 2000s. You're not seeing a team like the Dodgers now. And that's where I think a salary cap would come into play, and I think it would help the sport. To his point, there should be a floor of the amount that you should spend. You have to spend X amount. Like, so the A's, the Rays, the Marlins, teams like that, the Pirates are more competitive, and they're spending with the rest of the league.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, though, I think a lot of people tend to lose sight of it, is the point he's making is, yeah, we can keep talking about a cap, but it's not as if baseball has a problem with the results that we're seeing on the field. We're just more astonished that, like, in the case of the Dodgers right now, they're spending so much and no one else is matching them, when really we probably should be looking at other teams. And his fear is it's going to put an artificial cap on what Kyle Tucker can make, right? Is all right. Like, now Kyle Tucker's not going to make as much money because everyone else wants to be cheap on this one. It's going to be debate all year long. There's no question about it. But putting a cap on it's not going to solve the problem of owners that own franchise that would rather just make money off the revenue sharing.
That's where you need to force these teams, either force the teams to spend more money or find a way to get them out of ownership.
This day in sports history. Got a fun one for you when we come back next year on the Beat of Sports.
Time for the latest news, gossip, trends, and off-the-wall stories. Trends. Ooh.
That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
All right, Mike Tuckin for Marc Daniels wrapping up the beat of sports today. Mark will be back tomorrow. Chris Vasquez here. Here is a flashback to 41 years ago today. Yes, that is the moment that you are visualizing and it's funny because it was in 1985, and Bobby Knight did so many more wrong things after that point, but it is what people remember him for the most. In fact, in my class in advanced interviewing at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, I show a ton of Bobby Knight clips because it's Bobby Knight, and he had all kinds of crazy interactions with reporters and people. And when I ask if they're not familiar, like, was that the guy that threw the chair? Like, why he got fired? No, that's actually not why he got fired. He did a lot of things after that. That was just what he's maybe most famous for. And it's obviously a shame for all of his successes as a basketball coach.
Is he remembered more for his success on the court or for his...
In Indiana, he is, but no, the rest of us think about the way he treated people, the way he treated his own players, throwing chairs. Unfortunately, that's the reputation he's given himself.
I'm sure he's fine with it.
Well, he's dead, so he doesn't have a choice anymore, Chris. All right, man. It was fun today. Thank you, buddy.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll be back, I believe, next week. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Kravitz and Bianchi coming up at 3. Stick here. See ya.